Hello, I'm Siya. I'm in NIF Delhi. I'm studying MFM, and I'm here with Sanjana Khurana, who was my professor. Um, so I think you can do a better introduction for yourself than I can. So could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Okay. So thanks for doing this. And I'm Dr. Sanjita Khurana. I'm assistant professor of English at the University of Delhi, and I've been doing this for the last 10 years. And I've been teaching in 2013 at English. I'm currently at English for me. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, if you have any specific questions about my research or anything, I'm happy to answer.
Um, so the basic question that I want to ask was that how has like your career journey been since 2013?
Okay. So career journey has been a little. I mean, it's been great in terms of the rewards I've received in terms of like because I really enjoy teaching. But as a as a professor who was not tenured for a long time, I have had my share of like rocky experiences at the U. So I was an ad hoc assistant professor until 2 months ago, and so it was tough, but I mean I stayed put in this profession because the rewards are really high, not in terms of compensation financially or others, but in terms of just the intellectual satisfaction and the emotional satisfaction that I gain out of it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It does. Um, so was what basically made you, you know, get through this? Because I know that being like in an academic field is also like really difficult. So like, what were the things that you held on to like sort of get through the hard times?
Yeah, and had fortunately great relationships with a lot of them. That, of course, I like often with my students, I found deep friendships from them. That's one. Second is when you talk about how what made me persevere, even though it was a difficult journey, do contract with everyone, and the jobs where you don't have a the tendency in such a neoliberal space in a university is for to find for people to compete with one another with their peers. The one thing that I ensure that uh, has paid off because I have relationships with some colleagues which are like not even some of my ex colleagues who are some of my closest friends. So I think solidarity, the idea of making friendships, even in the face of competition, was something that really that I held on to even when I didn't want to. Sometimes I wanted to give up or like felt. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. So your voice is cracking. But
Yeah, because the connection I think went
yeah,
off
yeah,
in between.
yeah, yeah.
So I what was the last thing you could hear?
I heard about solidarity. And yeah,
Yeah.
I heard of that.
So I was saying that in a space where you're constantly being compelled to compete with each other, I made sure to kind of maintain those friendships just to resist against this onslaught of neoliberal competition. And I think that really pays off because I've developed some of the most intellectually and otherwise morally enriching relationships with my colleagues or ex colleagues. So that's one thing that I made sure never to give up on, even when I wanted to give up on it, because there sometimes you feel like you want to compete against your peers or your friends because that's how bad it is in academia now. But I made sure to kind of not give into that. That's thing that capitalism doesn't want to maintain relationships. So that's one, and I think I always stand by the value of trade unionism. So that I think as a worker, I think trade unionism is very important, and it's important to have an association which fights for teachers' rights and students' rights. So these are some of the principles which I've held throughout despite the struggles. Yeah, I think that's about it. And of course, I mean, there is the obvious thing which I said earlier. There are deep intellectual, um, there's a deep intellectual satisfaction that comes with this profession,
Yeah.
which hardly comes in any other place. So yeah.
So the other question that I wanted to ask was actually regarding this. So you talked about solidarity and basically having really enriched um, relationships in your career, and that I think is also, as like someone who's already like starting out, I'm realizing that that's a very important thing, because a healthy relationships and healthy environments are very, very difficult to create. So
Yeah.
would you have like any particular advice to give?
Well, I mean, one advice is that depends on your particular context as well. But when it came to my situation, sometimes you have to like, even when you feel like competing, and when you feel like this is not your peer, this is somebody you have to go up against. You may go up against them technically because there are only so many seats in a particular field. But you have to remind yourself. I think that's what I did. That it's not the person who's at fault. It's the system which is pegging you against them. So, I mean, I think one is not to take things personally, because if somebody is competing against you, they are also compelled to do that. Because I mean, I think that's the one thing that helped me sail through. I mean, helped me retain so many of my friendships, which could have been ruined if I didn't keep this in mind. Because I have had friends who've been given jobs that I was in, and so that's all that stuff has happened. And I think that's the one thing to remember, that all of us are part of a system, and it's not our personalities which are doing that. It's basically these are survival mechanisms. So I think that's
Yeah.
the one advice.
Yeah. Um, so I think you answered like a pretty good chunk of what I already wanted to ask,
Okay.
which was basically about the values that you wanted to talk about. The last
Hmm.
question that I'll be asking is that, so I'll be giving you 5 words, which are prepare, respect, implement, share, and maintain. So, out of these 5 words, is there a particular word amongst these that you consider more important to you, like that you value more?
You mean in terms of my commitment to my work?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are two actually. One is prepare, of course, because I never underestimate the importance of being prepared, and that also helps you like when you prepare. I'm talking here about lectures and academic stuff, but even when you are prepared for a certain position, that involves all of the things. That involves your efficiency. It encompasses everything. So prepare, but also the last one, which was maintain. I
Yeah.
mean, because consistency is these Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I'm sorry. Could you repeat the last part about maintain? I didn't catch that.
Oh, I think the network. Yeah. So I was saying maintain, because I've seen people sort of set of your commitment is self-driven. It's not. We don't have a corporate setup where you're being managed by HR. A lot of your commitment to your profession is self-driven. So
Hmm.
in that sense, I think maintenance, consistency is important.
Yeah. Um,
Could you hear all of that? I hope the
yeah, yeah,
network isn't.
yeah. I
Okay.
could. I could. Um, so, um, that is, I mean, I understand that. I also had one last question to ask. So, again, in terms of just like a professional environment, are there any other specific ethical values that you held on to? or that you consider like of like extreme importance to you, just like let's say from like day one?
In terms of like the professional, again, in terms of your environment, like because I'm in academia and I haven't worked in corporate or any other space
Yeah.
like that, but so most of my work or the people that I've encountered are either like really in love with the profession and that's why they're doing it, or people who are just there for the benefits of it. So the values that I would sort of that I've personally been driven by are, uh, I think, honesty and sincerity, basically. I was saying that the last bit, one was of course sincerity, and the other is that I tend to like believe that it's important to not come across as condescending, especially
Hmm.
when there are learners around. So that equal sort of space for everyone to grow without making it seem like you're the one teaching. I think that's kind of important. That's also why I'm able to maintain this curiosity around my work, which kind of has usually dies down after a few years. But I think that sort of mutual respect should be there.
Yeah. Um, I think that what you said is still like quite relevant even in just like any other environment as well, because like you said, right, sincerity and mutual respect and just um treating everyone like as equals is I think still like super important. And I'm realizing that it's actually really, really important to just like maintain that for a healthy work environment. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I think you answered like all of my questions. Thank you for this. Thank you for being there for the interview. It was good seeing you again, especially since our classes were also online.
yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
having